Hi there, and thank you for clicking on this video. This video is going to be covering the Nami Solo incarnon. For those of you that actually had the foresight to look at what the stats are, you got something pretty strong out of the deal. This is easily the strongest machete in the game. Not that that means too much, but it is a definite viable option now in current Warframe, especially against the Grineer. It's going to be a slash-based weapon. Because there really isn't any additional mechanic or gimmick, if you will. This is going to be a short video. Just going to go over the evolutions and show the build and basically do a little bit of damage, and we'll just call it a day. Evolution 1, you can't choose. There's only one option. +3 range, plus 100% melee damage, sprint speed, bullet jump. Pretty standard bonuses for that we're used to for incarnon evolutions. The +3 range is pretty nice. Big increase in terms of like modding flexibility. And we'll come back to that. Evolution 2, increased damage by +80, overall net positive on equip. So if you're swapping from, say, like a primer back to the melee, you'll be benefiting from additional attack speed. Master's Flourish. I think this is bugged. Inaros mains are crying right now. Actually give some utility to Inaros's 1. But it seems to just be giving like 20 health per second constantly when I tested this. I mean, that's something. Just getting passively 20 HP per second just for having a weapon equipped. But I wasn't able to trigger the 20% total health, which would be pretty substantial on something like a Naros, or even like, you know, any frame that's running like a blessing, right? So because we're going to be swapping prime, and we're going to be using this as like our like carry weapon, we are going to be doing the on equip 30% attack speed. So just a general nice buff. Evolution 3. This one by proxy, you know, through process of elimination, you really only have 2 options. But it does come with 3 options. Lone Blade with only a melee weapon equipped, increased fall off by 60%. This works on the AoE on the slam attack. Technically, this is a huge percentage increase. But with the exception of, say, like, I think like the Graham Prime, it's really difficult, and with some incarnon weapons, it's kind of difficult to do a ton of damage that's like relevant in the steel path or, say, like a level cap run with this weapon, or with slam attacks getting a ton of damage out of them. But this applies to the AoE on the slam radius, because the slam radius goes down to 0% at the edge, and is really like, you get 100 pennies on the dollar in the center, so you can hit something twice with the main hit of the weapon and then the AoE itself. So this would affect the AoE only. So your mileage may vary. I don't like using this for complete personal preference, but that's what it does. Swift Break, plus 50% heavy attack, wind up speed. This is going to help you with getting into the incarnon form. But overall, it is a solid option, because we're going to be using the weapon as our, you know, primary damage dealer. This can help, you know, obviously with keeping the incarnon form up. And the other one is a 6-second combo duration. This isn't going to be too relevant because we're using this. The attack speed is going to be so high with the build. Even if you don't have the don't have any combo, you're going to be able to get it almost instantly. So the 6 seconds is more overall utility, running from like mob to mob, or changing rooms. Say you're doing like a survival or a Kuva survival. The 6 seconds does help a little bit. And the 11 seconds, it just feels pretty nice if you're in a more mobile setting. But the most utility is probably just going to be the heavy attack wind-up speed, just because the incarnon buff is basically, 3 minutes? So you are going to be using heavy attacks somewhat regularly at a minimum. So these choices are going to be, personal preference. I went with the 6 seconds, but both of them are fine. The final one is pretty straightforward. We're used to seeing this sort of options. There's pure crit chance, 14%. So there's the pure crit chance option, there's the pure status chance option, and then there's a hybrid. So you have 21% crit chance if you do crit chance only. The hybrid is 14-14 for crit chance, status chance. And then you have the pure status chance option, which is a massive 30%, which gets the weapon all the way to 55%. So Weeping has a ton of status chance to chew on. If you don't have a Riven, 14-14 is a really solid option. So 29%, 29% crit chance, 39% status chance, and the weapon is already slash weighted. I have a Riven for this weapon, so I personally am going to be choosing the crit chance option, even though that is a lot of status chance to be losing. But just for the Reds, there's status chance on the Riven. That's the explanation behind this. If you don't have a Riven, which most people don't, because this has been, except for, I don't know, pirate cosplay or, pirate fashioning, you aren't really using this weapon. So most people aren't going to have Rivens. Just go with the center option. It's obviously a really strong bonus. So 29%, 39% for a crit chance, status chance, 2x multiplier on a slash weighted weapon. You really can't go wrong with that. But I did 21 just to get some more raw damage out of it. So pretty standard. Alright, let's go to the simulacrum real quick and we can talk about the stances. There are 2 stances, Sundering Weave and Cyclone Kraken, and basically it comes down to personal preference on those. Technically, Sundering Weave has more easy to access damage. The standing auto does have a higher multiplier, so this is Sundering Weave. The standing auto is 529%, which is obviously a pretty standard damage multiplier, like average damage multiplier. I like Cyclone Kraken because the moving block is just so damn mobile. So if you have Cyclone Kraken, it's a rare drop. You have to go out of your way to get it from caches. Though, if you haven't done the Kuva Fortress extensively, you probably don't have this. So the stance, it's a 10% drop from the Exterminate Kuva Fortress caches. So you probably had to go out of your way, and it's rotation C, so you kind of had to go out of your way to get all of the caches. And that's basically what we had to do. This isn't going to be an average stance that you have. So Sundering Weave is fine. It's a solid stance. But Cyclone Kraken, mobility-wise, just feels freaking amazing. And the damage multipliers are pretty close to each other. Where Sundering Weave has the benefit on the standing auto, Cyclone Kraken is ahead on the block, the 4 block auto. So it's personal preference. If you have both, do the drop chance is high enough, you do not need to buy Cyclone Kraken. Okay, it's not like night and day difference. So don't worry about that. Just use Sundering Weave, it's fine. But Cyclone Kraken does feel and look way better. And both stances are filled with, headshot level weapon movement. So the damage is about on par. There's no, sneaky bonuses with, say, the, Twirling Spire or Shimmering Blight, right? Where one, even though it's technically weaker, Shimmering Blight, but it's basically filled with headshot level hits. So even though Twirling Spire does have like nice multipliers and force procs, Shimmering Blade ends up coming out ahead on like a dot slash weighted weapon like the Orthos Prime or the Guandao Prime. And because of the headshot multipliers, it ends up coming out way ahead. This isn't the case. Just pick whatever you got. But if you have Cyclone Kraken, I would recommend trying that. It makes the weapon feel way better. So, standard slash build. There's not going to be a Nubro build on this. Because you're not a Nubro if you're doing incarnon adapters. The Riven is pretty simple. Crit damage, status chance. To, just a nice general buff, right? So it's a standard slash build, Condition Overload, Blood Rush, Weeping, Berserker, Prime Reach, Faction, Gladiator Might. If you don't have a Riven, which, let's be honest, you probably don't, I would recommend, if you're doing this, to run Arcane Strike. So you can do Organ Shatter. If you don't want to use a Faction, obviously double crit damage, double attack speed is a really good option to get the attack speed higher, or to get the overall DPS output, because the weapon on Cyclone Kraken does have a lot of multi-hit, though it loses occasionally on the overall multiplier. Cyclone Kraken does have nice multi-hit. So even though this isn't like a Tonfa stance, there's a lot of multi-hit on this. So more multi-hit, more combo, you know the deal. Let's look at the regular output. Our normal nerds, Exos, 195. And I'm already bugged. Okay, so the weapon is pretty, it's a slash build. The money's on the dot. You can build this for raw damage. So both stances, the standing auto, one of the bigger differences is the upfront damage. We are going to be hitting regularly for, higher 100,000 on the slash ticks, especially with viral, which isn't really saying much. But the one thing I do like about Cyclone Kraken is the Sundering Weave and Cyclone Kraken have a pretty nasty headshot and a really easy to hit headshot. But Cyclone Kraken, the difference is that the headshot is the first auto on the standing auto. So if you're trying to hit something, or you are trying to hit something like an Eximus where you really want to do like a bit more damage, Cyclone Kraken has the auto for the headshot, and it is a super easy to hit headshot on the first one. So it's, knowing where your headshot multipliers are in the stance can definitely benefit you here. Even with like lower stat or lower crit chance machetes, it's still nice to know where your multipliers are in your stances. So 70k on a headshot, obviously that's pretty nice. That one's 194. 370, like 370,000. Obviously with viral procs helping us out, getting the condition overload stack plus the damage to health bonus really works out, helping us out with that slash dot damage, right? So pretty basic. It's a slash build. You guys know the deal, because frankly, this weapon's late enough in the game. You should. So, the only real option is... It's not really normal to say, but technically primed reach is a flex slot. As weird as that is to say, you can still do, because of the incarnon mode, it gives us an additional 3 range, which bumps us up to 8.5. So if you don't want to use the faction mod, normally you would be swapping out one of the crit damage mods, right? You can swap out prime reach, but honestly, the follow through is 0.7, which is nice. Like, it's not like a 0.8 or something. I kind of wish the incarnon modes gave you like a bonus to like follow through. Like a 0.1 would be massive on some weapons, like going from like 0.6 to 0.7 or 0.5 to 0.6 would be a huge breath of fresh air, or normalize the incarnons to like 0.6, 0.7, or probably 0.7, obviously. Would be just a big DPS increase for the incarnons, and they would feel way better. But most of them are just straight up damage increases, and they feel really good anyway. So because of the incarnon mode, prime reach is technically a flex slot. If you don't want, or you have a Riven and you really want to get faction on the weapon, it'll give you the 5.5, which is pretty good. Otherwise, just go double range and get the 8.5. You have the follow through to support it. And because I have crit damage on the Riven, I will be running this because it's just a better version of Organ Shatter, where Gladiator Might is crit damage, crit chance. The Riven is crit damage, status chance. So for my case, I will be running this. Pretty basic otherwise. So let's do a bit of running. Going to be using the Panzer. We'll go into some Kuva survival, do the first Acolyte. Kind of a standard build. Actually, let's do the speed one, just for mobility. Swap out for strike. Alright, different build. It's just a standard speed build. Yeah, pretty standard. So, Arcane Strike's going to be giving us 60% attack speed. And the other multiplier to think about is Reaping Chakram. I won't be using it too much. Well, I probably will. So just keep in mind that it's about 100% vulnerability. I think it's a little more because of a shard. But basically double damage occasionally. So I'll be talking about the numbers when I see them. And obviously the Acolyte will die in flames on a heavy.
Predictable. As expected, Grenier have shut down the environmental systems, sending modified life support capsules. Use these to sustain your environment or attach to the catalyst to begin harvesting.
And with the Incarnon modes, because of the trigger and whatnot, I actually have been running like Anguish in the Exilus mod, just to make the Incarnon a little bit easier to hit. Not that it's a big deal because this is an AoE, but a little bit of a movement jump. It's only 10 meters, so it's not like the full set. But it does feel pretty nice also, so it's not really a technical DPS increase. But it does allow you to jump into a group pretty quickly and safely because it's a teleport. Alright, so the damage that I'm seeing is like 4 figures, 5 figures. Obviously, on a headshot, it's going to be a little bit nicer, so 10k, but the slash dot is 5 figures, so it's like, let's see, 33k, 35k, 36k, 145 on a headshot, obviously. 76k on that one. That one was a half a mil on an orange. $326. Yeah, because the headshot multiplier is so easy to hit. This is one of the reasons why I would say go with Sundering Weave if you got it, because the headshot is just incredibly easy to hit. It's almost a straight vertical headshot. And it's on the first one, so taking out like an Eximus or something that's pretty annoying is really easy to do. Yeah, 370k. Nothing wrong with that. So, 100k. And one of the reasons why I do recommend the Cyclone Kraken if you do have it is because the combination feels really nice. When priming, then you just block forward auto into them, and you just sort of dash into the group. So if you're running something like the Epitaph as your primer, you can generally hit everything that you just primed. Especially with the 8.5 meter range on it. When in the incarnon mode and prime reach. But for most of the steel path, to be honest, I'm not going to lie, you're not going to need it. Unless you're doing like a really long run. The biggest downside of the Nami Solo, I think, is that when the Nami Skyla Prime came out, the Nami Solo didn't get a Prime. And I think if there was a Prime version of that, we would be having a much different combination. And overall, I feel like machetes have like a really low percentage use compared to something like more popular than like a Tonfa or swords. And especially against something like glaives. Alright, there you go. Little 2-shot on an Acolyte. So, pretty basic. It's just a really, really, really strong weapon. And that's basically it. If, for whatever reason, you pick this, I went with both melees for this Incarnon cycle. If you picked this, you lucked out. It's a super strong little weapon. So, good on ya. If you like machetes, you now have your best machete, and it's not even close. But it's still a machete, though. It's an overall win, especially for like game variety. But it's just a strong little weapon. No other real, sneaky builds besides that. Obviously, you can jack the damage way up with like a raw damage, heavy attack build, hit millions and millions with it. But I like using it as a quick attack slash weapon. It just feels really dynamic. But obviously, we're in the primary, secondary meta right now because of the Galv mods. But it's got the right stats. It's got decent weightings on slash. It is a really solid option. Um, I wouldn't say it beats out like the Glaive Prime, obviously, but I think it's earned its spot, especially in like build variety. Like if you don't want to run the Glaive all the time, or say like you're tired of using Tonfas, but you still want to have like the appropriate damage type against the Grineer. I think the incarnon Nami Solo has definitely earned its spot in terms of like variety. You now have a go-to uh, machete, but it's still a machete though, right? So that's it. That's the build. Pretty basic. Uh, if you picked it, I would say you got a decent gem. It's not going to be breaking any records, but it's definitely of note for its category. So now I would say, because most machetes have been fairly status chance weighted, and this one still is. But in terms of like modern day power on a melee, it brings the Nami Solo up to par, which is what the Incarnon adapters were supposed to do, is bring older weapons up to like modern standards. And I would say overall, it's just definitely a win. It's not breaking the meta, but it's definitely brought the Nami Solo up to modern power levels. I just wish the damn thing had a prime. Because it's almost on par with like the Nami Skyla Prime. So, and that's the only reason why I would say the Nami Skyla comes out ahead, or the Nami Skyla Prime, um, is because of the multi hit. Like it's just got it's so quick. It's got like a really nice slash weighting. But this is definitely an option now. I wouldn't say like first pick it though. So if you're still waiting on Incarnon adapters and you haven't started that this week, pick whatever you want. They're all good. It might not be meta changing, say like the Bratton or the Latron or like the Soma, which are all strong in their own right. Well, maybe not the Soma. I mean, the Soma's still good. But in terms of like being like a core weapon in your build, to be honest, I'm probably going to be running this for a bit, but I don't think it's going to be like a permanent addition to like my build or like a daily driver. But it's definitely if I'm tired of using the weapons that I'm using, this is probably going to be part of the rotation, which I think is probably the best compliment you can give something, is that it's earned its spot. It's going to be part of like a rotation to keep variety up and like play styles different and whatnot. It's definitely pretty good. So anyway, that's it. Take it easy, guys. Have a blessed day.